Today, we look at the other tiny beast tribe floating around in the Black Shroud, playing through the bramble patch and messing with the animals living there, but a tribe that we adventurers will never see due to their vanishing magics. Today, we look at the mischievous little fuzzballs with the very poppable palm. Today, we'll be looking at the Moogles. The Moogles, the unbelievably elusive denizens of the Black Shroud. So elusive and secretive that, if it wasn't for us finding the churning mist Moogles, we would still know near nothing about their culture and way of life, even though they've very happily been living amongst the people of Gridania for years now. The Moogles just have this habit of dodging questions about themselves, or even outright ignoring them. But even so, we have learned quite a lot of things about them over the years, and we'll be going over all that with our usual questions, starting with their physical characteristics. Now, if I had to describe a Moogle to anyone who hasn't seen one, I'd say they look like someone took a white munchkin cat, removed the back half of it, stuck a lollipop on its head and gave it bat wings. Now if you'd like an actual better description, you won't find one. But let's still talk more about them. The Moogles all have very short, soft white or tan fur that covers their entire bodies, with limbs that look just about as useful as a DVD rewinder and a head that's about 50% their entire body. As for their wings, they, unsurprisingly, cannot keep the Moogle airborne in a conventional manner. Instead, the Moogle wings actually create a burst of aether with each beat. The Moogle are then able to manipulate this aether to provide themselves with a means of controlled levitation. As for how they move, imagine sitting on an office chair and propelling yourself forward by constantly eating Taco Bell and passing a rather violent wind, crop dusting everyone you pass by. Now I'm not actually sure why I wanted you to imagine that, because that's not how a Moogle moves. The Moogles simply manipulate the wind around them and use it to push themselves around. As for their palms, there is very little information as to what these things are. The lore books claim that they change color depending on the Moogle's current mood, but I doubt that is true. Have you ever seen a Moogle's palm change color? Because I haven't. And I've seen Moogles change their mood as often as a Fantasia addict changes races on payday. Plus, if this is true, then why do all the Moogles in the Churning Mist have the same palm color? Are they always in the same mood? I kinda doubt that. So what actually determines their color? And what on earth is a palm? For the color, I first thought it was dependent on where they were born, but this definitely isn't the case. Yes, the vast majority of Moogles in the 12's Wood do have orange palms, but then there's the Moggard Moogles, who all have unique palm colors. And then there's the Nomadic Desert Moogles, who have white and blue palms. And then there's the Churning Mist Moogles, who all have pink palms. So what determines all these colors? We simply don't know, and the dang Moogles ain't gonna tell us. As for what the palms are, I have two theories based on what we know from the lore, because as far as I'm aware, there is no official concrete description of what it is. The first is that it's a parasitic organism controlling this furry creature, kinda like this brain controlling fungi in real life, This is based off of the fact that they're so incredibly defensive of their palms. Though the much more likely theory is that the palm is a sensory organ used to sense aether. The Moogles are known to have some of the highest sensitivity to the etheric flow than that of any race, allowing them to naturally use incredibly powerful magics, such as their signature invisibility spell, that nobody but the most skilled seekers or other Moogles can see past. However, their incredible sensitivity does come at a cost. They are one of the races that is most susceptible to overexposure to corrupt or imbalanced aether, and can very easily and quickly get etheric sickness, which is basically an imbalance of aether in their bodies. That concludes their physical characteristics, so let's now talk about their religion. So, Good King Mogglemog the 14th, may his palm ever be bright, is obviously their god, right? I mean, he's what the Warrior of Light fought as a primal, so he has to be. Well, no. The Moogles don't believe in any god, and the summoning of Good King Mogglemog, may his fur ever be soft, was actually what changed the definition of what a primal is, which is now believed to be any idea made manifest through determination, belief, and a lot of crystal energy, all of which the Moogles have. Thus, Good King Mooglemog, may he ever be poofy, came to be due to the Black Shroud Moogles' belief in their origin myth. The Moogles believe that in the Age of Gods, their ancestors dwelled peacefully in the heavens above, until one day during a large feast there was an incident involving a god spilling a cup of wine, that then escalated into a full-on brawl. All the gods fighting each other in a giant free-for-all. Good King Mogglemog the 14th, may he ever have a Kupo nut in his hand, was at this feast, and is now watching this brawl. After watching for a short while, he was struck in the head by some of the debris that was now flying everywhere. Good King Mogglemog, may his paws be perfectly manicured, decided the gods are too crazy, and it's time for his people to go somewhere safer, such as the world below. However, there was a problem. The distance between the heavens and the world was too great, and the Moogles would not be able to make it without risking exhaustion, thus potentially falling out of the skies. So the wise and benevolent King Mogglemog, may his wisdom be ever guiding, somehow found a rope out of nowhere and dropped it down, holding on to one end himself and allowing all his subjects to clamber down the rope, sacrificing himself by stranding himself alone in the heavens. Thus, now free from the crazy gods in the heavens, the Moogles inhabit the Twelveswood, and over the generations the Moogles have refused to appoint a new king, intent in their belief that Good King Mogglemog the 14th, may his noble sacrifice never be forgotten, will one day return to lead his people. A great and fun myth believed by the Twelveswood Moogles, but one we also know to be 100% a warped and fantastical tale of their actual history, thanks to us meeting the Churning Mist Moogles. So, in truth, the Moogles, before the first Umbral Calamity, did indeed all live in the sky, but on a massive floating island or islands. Unfortunately, due to the first calamity, vast swaths of these islands or island was destroyed, blown away, or simply became inhospitable. So the Moogles had to make a very tough choice, and it was their chieftain at the time, a certain Mogglemog, who decided which Moogles would have to leave the floating islands to the land below, and who would be allowed to stay. The land below, at this point in time, was the Black Shroud. Of those Moogles who were selected to descend, many of them decided to stay in the Shroud, whereas many others ventured out. Those that stayed became the Twelveswood Moogles, and those that left became the nomadic desert Moogles of southern Orphad and Ilsabard, and perhaps some other tribe that we've yet to meet. During the eras, their histories and memories changed what they remembered, and thus their history became the myth we know today. Now let's move on and talk about Moogle culture and society. So here is kinda where I gotta do a lot more speculation. As mentioned, the Moogles hardly ever reveal information about their own culture, biology, or society. However, even though all the Moogle tribes have been separated for thousands upon thousands of years, they have all kept nearly the exact same culture and societal structures. Their way of life seems to be kind of intrinsic to them, which means that by looking at the Churning Mist Moogles, who are Moogles that are a bit more open to us, we can learn about said society. So let's begin. Their leadership. The Moogles have no laws or government, but are sorta ruled by a clan chieftain. However, these leaders don't really govern the Moogles. It's sort of odd. Yes, for the most part, the Moogles follow what the chieftain tells them to do, but their culture has a very high degree of individualism. Near all Moogles will set out to do things on their own, forming groups within their clan who all have similar goals, and these goals can be anything. For example, there are the Mogmenders, who are trying to rebuild Zenith. Then there's the Pom Guard in the Churning Mist and the Moggle Guard in the Twelveswood, who are both trying to protect Moogle kind. And then there's the Post-Moogles, who strive out to deliver mail to all the denizens of Eorzea and beyond. So for Moogles, their leader is more of a Moogle that they will follow to allow themselves to find more individual Moogles who will join their purpose-driven groups. Next, Moogles are well aware that other races find them adorable and cute, and the manipulative buggers use this knowledge to their advantage. For you see, Moogles are very lazy, and will often find adventurers doing quests for Moogles. These quests just being the Moogles' chores, or the Moogle using the adventurer to play pranks. Because oh yes, the Moogles are highly mischievous creatures. Playing pranks is an important part of their culture. Prank playing is actually a form of endearment to them. Yes, like most anyone, they don't like falling victim to a prank, but even so, they're happy when a prank happens. If they are pranked, well, they'll probably start plotting at a prank of their own. Now this does kinda make other races weary around the Moogles since, you know, constant prank pulling shenanigans. But for the Moogles' sake, just try to remember, if a Moogle plays a prank on you, it means they like you, and likely want to be friends. Moogles also like being friends of plants. Yes, that is the best transition I could think up for here. Moogles care deeply for the native flora where they live, and try to take care of plants by replanting them where they think they'd be safe. They are especially fond of flowers and, of course, the Kupo nut tree. Fun fact, next time you're in the Churning Mist, have a look where all the flowers are. This zone's flora was destroyed long ago, and the only places plants have begun to thrive again, especially the flowers, is where the Moogles are. And lastly, let's talk about their cooking. Moogles are, let's say, single-minded when it comes to cooking. Though they are omnivorous and display an appetite for a wide variety of foods, the Moogles themselves, traditionally, were not that great at cooking, Yes, today, after learning that there's more to life than the Kupo nut, the Moogles do enjoy a wide variety of foods inspired by the other races, but originally they'd only create foods such as stewed mushroom, vegetable and Kupo nut, roasted Kupo nut and mushroom kebab, baked Kupo nut between 2 cuts of Kupo nut, and of course a good old raw Kupo nut. Hell, these guys love Kupo nuts so much that it became a form of currency for them. Thus all of them never had any money, because they kept gobbling up each other's nuts. And yeah, that will conclude all we know about their culture. So let's wrap this up with their naming conventions. Though Moogle culture is about the same no matter where they are, their naming conventions differ quite a lot. We currently only know of 3 existing Moogle tribes: the Churning Mist Moogles, the Black Shroud / Twelveswood Moogles, and the Southern Orphard and Ilsabard Desert Moogles. Let's start with the Southern Orphard and Ilsabard Moogles. Simply put, they're named after the Final Fantasy XII Moogles. They were added during the Ivalice questline, thus it is of no surprise they'd be named after the Moogles in the Ivalice game. The 2 Moogles that we meet from this tribe are Mont Blanc and Hurdy, and these are 2 names of the 6 Moogle siblings. So we can assume that there's a Sorbet, Nono Horny, and Gertie somewhere in the desert, but beyond that their naming convention is a mystery to us. Next, the Black Shroud Moogles. These Moogle names are derived from the syllable pattern of Ku-Po Nut, 2 syllables, 1 syllable, though sometimes the second part of their names will also have 2 syllables. All these Moogle names always have alliteration in their names. Male Moogles starting with a K and near always starting with a KUP, whereas female Moogle names start with a P and near always start with a PUK. So for example, male names would be Kuplo Kop, Kupcha Kupa, and Kupli Kip, whereas female names would be Pukni Pak, Pukla Puki, and Pukna Pako. Lastly, the Churning Mist Moogles. These Moogles make 0 distinction between male and female names. All Moogles here just have their names prefixed with the word Mog and will always be 2 syllables long. So example names would be Moglin, Moghan, Moggi, Mogzia, Mogmul, and so on. That will conclude what we currently know about the Moogle naming conventions, and thus conclude our look at the Final Fantasy XIV floating fuzzballs of fluff. I hope you enjoyed. Next we will look at the final beast tribe that lives predominantly around the Twelveswood. A race that once lived within the forest, but ticked off the elements one too many times and got kicked out. Next we'll be looking at the Ixal. But for now, goodbye my friends, and have a great day.